All right, we're back. I guess this is like episode 4 at EMS Tech Group. Still with the shitty grainy camera and still really tired, but got Element Rescue again. And we're going to cover aid bags. Wow, my face looked really weird when I just said We're going to go over aid bags and some other cool stuff. So stick with us. I got McKay and the Land Pirate.
What's up?
Again.
Yeah,
we did not do a costume change because
nope,
this is recorded right after the other one. So whatever.
Yeah. And I only have like 4 outfits here. So,
That's all right.
I only got so many options.
Yeah,
but I
you look good.
As promised, have a fantastic story. So it's really less of a joke and just a ridiculous experience that I've had 3 times now. So why I've had experience 3 times? Well, because I have the benefit of hanging out with a bunch of people right now. We all have our own collective TBI moments. And one of my buddies, Ethan, tends to forget a lot the last 2 hours of his life on a regular basis right now. So it's been my fun job to remind him things like today's his first day. It's really not. Sometimes when we're doing exercises in the gym, I'll just go ahead and erase his last couple of exercises and let him start over. You're
taking money from him too, I believe.
I mean, I haven't actually taken the money, but I do tease him and remind him that he owes me $50. It's just good fun. It's what we do. I'm sure somebody else is doing it to me, but I can't remember. It's great. So it's a win-win. But yeah, so there we are. And we're talking about his actual first day, or the day before his actual first day. And he was telling me that he got in there and he sat down. He said it's pretty hard to find out that, basically he's everything short of being retarded. But he didn't think that was the worst case scenario. So he went and got in the car and looked over his wife and he just said, "Hey, babe, how does it feel to fuck a retard?" Priceless. It's awkwardly funny the first time. Sense of humor. Yeah, the first time you Definitely. Hear it, it's awkwardly funny. The third time, you can't help but spit your coffee out across the floor. It happened. Even in COVID times, coffee went flying. So that was fun. But yeah, so as promised, I told you it's worse than you've probably heard from me in a while, but it's funny. It's my life right now. Yeah. So with that, let's talk aid bags.
Yeah, we got to talk about your cool bicycle too at some point.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm as old bad as it gets. I've got a vest. There's gray in my beard. I've got a sit-down bicycle.
Yeah, a reverse recumbent bike, actually, right?
Yeah. Which I didn't think was a thing, but it is. So
we got to get your Land Pirate flag for it, though.
That's what I said. I'm gonna it's got to have a flag. This little yellow one is not cool. Yeah. So I got that going for me. So it goes back to don't get blown up a bunch of times and don't take methadone, kids. Shit's dangerous.
We'll pay for it in the end, man.
Yeah. But I don't have malaria.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So aid bags. So we left off last time. We've pretty much taken everything out of the average medic out there's aid bag, to include mine, at least, a handful of years ago, and said, Swedish chef style, just fucking Schmorgan Morgan, that shit's gone. Now the aid bag's empty, which is great news. Big question, what do we put in it? Swedish fish, of course, but what else? Obviously, we'll give you the always standard answer, right? Depends. Or what's your mission, right? I'll quote Ryan every time. Well, what are you going to use it for? Feel free, if you've got the money or somebody cool wants to sponsor you, hey, I'm down. Or you want to sponsor me, I'll try a whole bunch out and have like 18 different aid bags sitting around. Right. But most of the time you don't have that. So you got to kind of choose something that's super versatile. I recently came across and you guys have seen me, I've been texting about it like a bazillion times, right? The awesome multi-mission pack, North American Rescue. Probably the best option I've found so far because, and I'll go on about it later. There's probably other photos and stuff, but because it's so versatile, right? The belt is a butt pack that's basically my March belt, and it unzips off the aid bag. Amazing. Reminds me of the time hanging out with the SAS and their Bergens. So I get to say like random weird words that don't mean anything, and then piss off the Aussies. So that's fair dinkum, or something like that. There's some more Aussie talk. But the easy part about it is it's got all these compartments that you can just Velcro right out and switch out easily with something else. So if you're like, hey, I don't need as much March stuff, but I need a whole lot more PFC, prolonged field care type stuff, then I'm going to go ahead and switch that out. And it's the same cube and weight, same size, and now I can carry the same bag. Saves me a whole lot of time packing.
Well, I think if you modularize, if that's a word, everything, and you vacuum seal it, like we're always pushing vacuum sealing, and this is a perfect example. Another reason, excuse me, why? Because you can make these inserts basically.
Yep.
Okay, boom, take this mission. I'm going to put this in it. Boom, I need this. I'll put that in it. I want more TXA or blood or whatever, and you just plug and play.
Exactly. If I'm helping out in California with all the forest fires, like I'm going to expect some impalements and burns. So I'm going to take some stuff out, put some like NG tubes back in, things like that. Right. But the key is with that, and that Sean's been listening to me ramble on about it for probably about the last month, is choosing whatever bag you have, the standard proper cube size. I don't care about weight so much because that'll change and you just have to get stronger, but the cube size that fits in and out of that compartment of the bag the best, right? So that way every time, like I know I've taken two cubes out and I can fit 2 cubes in.
Mm-hmm.
And that way I'm not changing and going, oh, I got to repack the way I think this and how do I fit this thing in here? Or you've got that guy who can barely zip up his aid bag every time. I'm always laughing at the guy who's like, he's like me when I pack for going on vacation, because I drink all night the night before and I just randomly throw shit into the suitcase and try to zip it shut. Right. So just an idea there when you're doing it, just like choose a cube size.
Do you have any like must-haves for a aid bag design? Like for me personally, it's got a clamshell open. Like I want to unzip it so it clamshells.
That is definitely, I don't know if it's a hard stop, but it's as close to a hard stop as you can get for me for a clamshell. There's a couple of bags out there that I do use occasionally that have enough other features that'll overlook it and let it open up like a book.
Okay.
But I think it just, if nothing else, it sends me into some traumatic memories of the early days in the 18 Delta course, using my old M5 bag and just opening that thing up, and I've become a 21-year-old scared kid again, getting yelled at by Bubba Pitts and a bunch of other badasses, looking like a retard. So I try not to do that. But yeah, clamshell is definitely one of them. I think the other thing is, like, I don't even know how to describe how amazing this bag is.
I think a way to hang it so it can hang so you can get to everything inside and it's not like skewed off to one side or flopping over on itself. So for you, like if you're in an aircraft or in a helicopter or something, or for us, if you're in a Bearcat, you can hang it and work out of it.
I agree on that one. I need it to, I need every opening to also have an inside opening. I don't know how to explain that, but let's see if I can show a video. So, and I didn't know how much I needed it until I got this bag. So like you see it clamshells, right? Let's see if I can get this here. Clamshells open, right? So the centerpiece, boom. But then this flap, right? The flap that clamshells also opens up into a pocket, right?
Gotcha.
That matters way more to me than I thought it did. So for one, sometimes I need a bag that's got some kind of rigidity, right? I want it to keep a specific shape. So for me, that was around like 3 Iraq, I think, when I spent a lot of time in Solder City, and they really liked making sure that the medic didn't exist as fast as possible. And so I needed my bag to look like everybody else's bag as much as possible, so they couldn't figure out who the medic was, so I didn't die first. Not that I really wanted anybody else to die, but I definitely didn't want it to be me.
Right.
Just saying. Sorry, Mike, I love you, but I want to stay first. So it was really important to me to kind of create this rigidity and this bag to look just like everybody else's bag. So that was a piece. But now it's because I'm obsessed with trying to fit just enough or just the right amount for the mission's rope in there. Because I'm tired of trying to carry an extra rope bag or always trying to remember where it's at or how to move somebody. And there's no good space in a bag to put rope ever until now. So that's kind of for now on, that will be a showstopper for me. Does the clamshell pouch also hold something else I care about? And it may not be the rope next time. Maybe it'll be like Sean was talking about how they made those little IFACs that they kind of vacuum sealed and fit like a plate carrier size. It might be one of those inserts. But whatever it is, it's that the piece of cloth that opens also holds things I care about.
Sure.
So that's a big factor for me for now on. And then what else? I don't know. I think it's kind of like, other than that, it's like a pen, a gun, or a knife. When it's in my hands, I know it's right or it's wrong. But until then, it just like.
Yeah, I mean, and we've all been trying bags for forever, right? The three of us have been screwing around with kit for, decades, you know? I mean, so, I mean, I think anybody watching this, if you're interested in trying some other stuff out, just get your hands on some shit and try it and see how it works for you.
Yeah.
This isn't like we've said before, this isn't the way to do things. It's just a way to do it that we think might work, might not work for you. So
here's just to do it, just because I think we showed it before, man, but I'll throw those pics on, man. And so that's kind of the vacuum seal kit. So this is just one of multiple options, right? And so the side view of that is it's less than an inch, depending on whether you put a webbing in it, and then it just kind of slides in that back pouch on that aid bag, on that specific aid bag there. So the big thing about it is when we were first developing that with some dudes right before their deployment, each guy had a different aid bag. So each one of those was a different shape, man.
Yep, exactly.
And it was very, very easy to do. And you know the deal with your vacuum sealers is once you start getting some of it out, you can actually start shaping that. So even if they wanted it to fit like across the top or in a certain area of that bag, it makes it really, really easy. The original one that we did was just to be able to slide in an entire rescue kit that would accomplish 1 and 2 person hauls, lowers, emergency bailouts, and shit like that. And it needed to fit into the mesh part of an M9. Well, come to find out, that's not too far out. Even if you have like a hydration sleeve or something like that in your bag, depending on what you're using, man, like you can get it to fit that also. So it's very, very easy to do. And that was a heavier one. We actually downsized it quite a bit because most people are going to have webbing on the outside of that stuff anyway. So we're able to do away with that.
Yep. Oh, that's another thing I guess I do know that it has to do. It has to be mildly wider than the M9, because the M9, apparently they measure 9 like I measure 9, so they don't really know what that depth is, because you can't even stand a freaking ace wrap up in that thing, and that's not cool.
No.
So it really kind of changed the way I had to pack back then, and I just didn't dig it. But there weren't a lot of options, and I'm it may surprise everyone, but I'm super cheap. So I wasn't going to buy a whole bunch of different aid bags to find out the hard way back in the early days. Now I get away with it a little bit, although I've been put in pen jail. So I'm not allowed to buy pens or paper anymore for a little while. So I guess I'm not that cheap. Don't spend $100 on a pen and then let your wife find out. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Putting it out there. But yeah, so bottom line is like that's another thing that matters to me is it's got to be just deep enough to fit like a ace wrap.
Okay. Like I guess the minimum standard, like what should you pretty much your go-to stuff for just about every mission set?
All right. So I'm going to start with blood, like a way to do blood, right? So
sure.
if you don't have a cooler or don't have frozen blood, then have ways to do the blood transfusions.
Okay.
Autologous.
Right?
So yep. Like that's start one. Like you have to have blood. What's next? What's my next have to? So airway, like
airway. Yeah, I was thinking an airway. A way to fix a shit airway.
Yep, and it's got to be like I'm tired of thinking like, yes, go ugly early. I'm not a rapid, kind of like go use all the sucks and all this stuff to go ahead and
do an RSI.
No. I'm not an RSI guy. I'm more like an RCI, like rapid crike innovation.
Sure.
But if that goes wrong, then what? And that's the problem. I think that I've I've had a couple times in my packing and, in the past, but I definitely see it more and more now. Maybe that's because I'm a born again criker or something. And I notice these problems. But like, if most guys I talk to, if they say, "Oh, I crike first," cool, and I'm like, "Okay, what do you do if that doesn't work?"
Right.
They got nothing.
Yep.
They're like, "Well, it's gonna work." I'm like, "No, I've seen it happen. Sometimes it just doesn't work, and you need to know like what's next." So in your airway, it's got to have a different option, whatever that be.
Sure.
For me, King LT,
Yep.
because you can at least convert a King LT to an ET tube or a crike. Right? I can just put a bougie down the tube, pull it back out, slide the ET tube up over it. If it's in the wrong hole, then I can basically do that and know then where the right hole should be. I don't know of a way to switch an LMA to a crike or to a ET personally.
No.
Anybody out there? Feel free to
Yeah, drop it in the
educate
comments
me.
if you do, because
Yeah.
I can't think of a way to do without it.
I am totally down to learn.
So I'm gonna throw something out here, man, because like this has always been a pet peeve, and so I started carrying it towards the end when I was working, and I guess I just totally fucking bored JJ. Is that what fucking happened there, Ben?
Yeah, he's gone.
Right.
He's done.
Yeah, I don't even
Whatever.
know what the fuck
Fine.
to say. I don't even know what to say right now.
Whatever. It's fine.
It's
He's probably
hurtful.
gonna go meet Callaway.
It's hurtful. Yeah, he's hurtful. He's trying to freaking text Callaway and stuff like that.
I can't reach around.
Well, to say Callaway,
See what I
exactly.
did there? Yeah, perfect timing.
See, perfect.
You know, there's this stuff that you will love it, man.
That's comedy. It's called timing.
It's this new technology that I'm going to send to you with our next care package to you at your mental health facility. It's called Bluetooth, and it's like, oh look, I can look, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
You're not. You're like the reason why he uses that, Brad, is do you ever see that Saturday Night Live skit with Nicole Kidman and that dude who plays I don't know, he's been in everything. What is it, Myers? Mike
Myers. Yeah.
Where he's like the overactive kid, and he's on a fucking tight box for the playground for a bit, and he's like,
it's my extra leash. Yeah,
it's your leash, man. It's his leash.
So I
His
can
wife
feel
has
like,
it on him.
It gives me like that feeling of the old days where I actually I wasn't a fag. I'm not making fun of homos. I will later, but actually that's a former action guy.
Right.
All right.
Now since I'm former action, it makes me kind of feel like a Peltor. Like I can push. I can't, but
JJ gets up to run to his bag and is like pulled right back.
Like, oh! Yeah.
But
so quick side note, I did do that. So we have these like what we call monkey tails for the aircraft, and I had a captain who didn't really understand that his position was next to the radio. So I asked him, in my nice version, to do that, to stay next to it. He didn't listen. So then I sewed the monkey tail to his kit, and he was only allowed to go the 25 meters of length that I gave him from the car from then on all missions. That didn't go over well, but it worked for the first 2 missions. So, so there's a technique to do that. But anyway.
So I was going to throw out something, man, and I know all of us have kind of discussed it here and there, and I just got in a discussion with David the other night, but this is like one of those things where I fell in love with it, man, as an option, right? So we just talked about, okay, so you're doing a surgical, but, this is an issue or whatever. And I really feel like you don't hear many places ever doing them, but yet when you look at the places that have done them and that have actually done research on it and written it up, and Van Stralen is one of those guys back in like the early 90s, I think it was, he wrote it. I have an article right now in front of me from American Journal of Emergency Medicine. This is from like 95. But what's interesting is retrograde innovation, man.
Yeah.
Now, when you get into it, I get it, man. And soft and things like this, it's a little bit different game. And I know, some units, like, dude, we don't even try an IV. We go straight to IO. We don't even mess with direct laryngoscopy. We don't even carry, like, we go straight to a crate. And those dudes do nothing but train on that. And they're extremely proficient and stuff like that. But when you get into, like, maybe the civilian guy or that a group that does that all the time, man, I'll be honest with you, like, it's hard to dig up a retrograde, and in the end, you need a guide wire. And if you're sticking a 14 gauge right into it, it's like remember those old pieces of shit, like the needle and splaters back in the day, right? Yep. Basically it's a 14 gauge, but it's going up. And the beauty of it is you can bag somebody if you're bagging them, you can bag somebody through 2/3 of the procedure, right? So, you basically can identify it. Oh, I can identify it like anybody who's going to do any kind of procedure should, if you're a medic. Put that 14 gauge in, which is pretty freaking easy to put into the cricothyroid membrane. Advance that up, take the needle out, and now basically you tie a little knot on the end of your guide wire. You feed it up until dude is looking through and sees shit coming up. Basically, you can McGill force up that thing out or whatever, and you hold tension on one end. You literally just put it through the Murphy's eye and slide it down. And I think Van Stralen's article on it, I love just because he did it in true DVS fashion, where he trained a couple of ER docs, he trained a couple nurses, he trained a couple EMTs, and he trained some janitors.
Nice.
In the whole thing.
And
And had
talk to you for 4 hours at 2:00 in the morning. But that's also a technique.
And it was I think it was, I have to look at it. It was either a 15 or 20-minute class he gave them, man, on it. And then they went right to cadavers, man.
Wait.
Did it.
Let's
and there
go
was
back.
one.
Did David only talk for 20 minutes? That's
I know, man. I know.
Okay.
It may have been when he was younger. Like I said, I
Okay,
think this was early 90s or whatever. So
Gotcha.
at that point, he could have been on meds and shit like that.
Yeah.
You don't know. I don't like to speculate. But anyways, there was one person who didn't complete it out of the whole group, man, which was multiple janitors, multiple whatever. And it was literally, I think it was like a 10-minute refresher, and then he got it, and it was one of the janitors, man. But it was such an easy task for the right patient, right? I'm not saying like you're getting some sort of swelling from thermal burns, all this other shit, but in an end, man, like you can't get a whole lot easier than that, man, right? When you look at it, and when you've tried it, if you ever get a chance to do it in a cadaver lab or on any kind of LTT or whatever you're doing, I think you're going to be amazed at like how easy that is, man.
Yeah.
Even with somebody with some swelling and shit like that, being able to be able to still knock out a retrograde innovation, and so easy.
Yeah, genius. I love it.
But it's another tool, man. It's another tool, and in the end, it's, what are you looking at, man? You're looking at a guide wire that can roll up and like that big when you undo it. A needle that you already have, which is your 14 gauge, where you can even get away obviously with less than that if you had to, out of an IV kit or something. But it just needs to fit the guide wire through, and that's it. And your tube.
Yeah, and that's super affordable too, compared to like a bougie, which a lot of people can't afford. Or if you're cheap like me, you can go to the Dollar Tree, buy a whole bag of those awesome little bracelets that Sean and I used to wear around our necks when we were out raving. They'll glow in the dark, and then it glows, and so his throat can glow. It's pretty cool looking. He's all excited. I've got a couple extra to do some dances.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can move them, like if you have to create a CCP like in a rave. Yeah, it fits right in, man. It fits.
Nobody even notices.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's totally clandestine. It's also not the most sterile, so just keep that in mind. Maybe wipe it down a little bit real quick.
Not a sterile procedure anyway.
Yeah,
so whatever,
it's not.
right?
And honestly, like, it's probably not the worst thing that dude's put down his throat.
Especially if he's, yeah. Like if you're helping a SEAL or something, like a Navy SEAL, probably not.
Dude, you could probably go for like a whole glow stick then.
Oh yeah. Like the package.
Yeah, like
the tube that they come in. Yeah.
The Pringles can, whatever you got.
Yeah, right.
It'll fit, I promise. No, I love you guys, really. I do. Don't choke me. But yeah, so you got options.
Right? Did he just freeze? Did he just freeze when he did that? He froze on my computer.
Oh, that's a bummer.
No, that was him.
So
he's all right. No, we I think I don't know if I saw it or not, but
yeah,
whatever.
It's fine. So yeah, what else did we? So what else do I have to have? Airway. I have to have another suction. Hands down, like
other than the 60 cc syringe you're carrying in your March belt.
So right now it's a squid. Again, it's not my absolute favorite option, but it's the best option I've got.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at with that one.
Well, if we can get that compact battery powered one.
Yeah.
Soon.
That'd be awesome, bro. Yeah. So after that.
Big boy bleeding control.
Yep. AAJT.
Yep.
Definitely got an AAJT in every bag. New one specifically. Old one had some rough go arounds, but the new ones.
Yeah, the new ones are different. I mean, the new ones, obviously, we saw the new ones are phenomenal, man. They
Yep.
did change it. They took the windlass off, which is great, man. Made it ratchet, and putting it on is so much easier, so much quicker. And they fixed the little deal with the deflation possibility when you have them wrapped up in an HPMK and stuff. So
yeah. Yeah. So those
and I'll
are,
be honest with you, like there's a lot of stuff. I know I've hit this before and we talked about before, but like I really, if you're going with an junctional device, I can't say more about that AHAT from a rescue standpoint of it not failing because it's outside of where you're going to naturally move those casualties, whether you're doing a collapse, confined, or even a vertical where you're moving them out a window or off the top. We always have to bend them, and unfortunately, that bend spot is where most junctionals take place, and we have them fail all the time. The AHAT being a little bit higher is outside of that window, and it works really well, man.
Yeah, solid. Yep. So those are like, I think off the top of my head, the absolute must. Then like I really want, but I guess I could survive without sometimes, is my minor surge kit.
Sure.
I like my minor surgical kit. With that, I've always got some lidocaine in there as well. I carry some lidocaine outside of it as well because we've covered. I think we'll discuss it. I can never remember what we talked about anymore. So I don't want to put all my lidocaine in the aid bag because if I take it off, that's a signal like local. Maybe I'm going to do a regional block or a local block of the hand. I want to do that out of pockets. So I've also got that in a different belt. But if I'm going to open a minor surgical kit, it's because like a tube's getting put into somebody's body. A fasciotomy is going to happen, which is not a lot of fun, or some other big things. So obviously he's going to get some pain meds, but I also want to locally go ahead and block some things off to kind of.
And I think the other side of it is people don't really realize, especially people that may not have worked with JJ before, but his minor surge kit does bring all the boys to the yard.
It does. I could teach you, but I'd have to charge.
Yeah, to charge, yeah.
So
yeah, it's better than yours.
Major surge kit. But like I've got some stuff to go ahead and keep things open, right? So go ahead and like the retractors. I've got the cool little mechanical ones there. I've got a pair of Mayos. I've got at least 2 different pairs of forceps, and I've got about on average 4 to 5 curved Kellys, like 5-inch in there, a needle driver, some sutures, and then some shunts and types, tubes and things like that. So I realize that it's minor plus.
Sure. And it's, the civilian guys are all sitting here going, we're not going to be carrying that because we want to keep our licenses.
Yeah.
But, but still,
I will say when you get into helicopter groups, crews.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of those guys got a little bit more. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, a lot of tactical medics have level 3 protocols, things like that are able to do, whether you're a USAR team, obviously, you have a lot of USAR teams now that have guidelines for field amputations when they're in a trench or anything like that, right? Which happened in Texas not too long ago, a couple of years back, where guidelines are starting to change into having that capability. And I think when you get into your USAR, your tactical medic, especially in something that you've got to free up something, do something in the problem to be able to free them up, it's definitely realistic. I was surprised to see some of the advancements in some of these techniques as far as what would be considered like not a chance in hell back in the early 2000s now is coming across pretty well. And I think between the tactical civilian tactical medic and USAR, things are coming along slower than what we want, but definitely making some huge progress.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. And I think that even if you're not like going to be able to carry everything I've got in there, the things I would take and say that almost all of you need is some lidocaine, right? Some sutures, and some curved Kellys, so that you can at least clamp some. If you see that major bleeder, you can clamp it, because that's way better option than anything else if you're going to go ahead and try to take care of like junctional bleeds and stuff like that. So, and I don't think I could be wrong. You guys correct me, but I don't think that's going to break any of your protocols.
No, if it's visible and
Right.
I can clamp it, I mean, at least I know in my system that if I can clamp it and if I did the right thing for the patient at the right time for the right reason, I'm going to be fine.
Right. And so I think a pair of curved Kellys is a pretty mundane, kind of like boring thing to carry that nobody's going to be super upset about. It's not like you're planning. It's not like walking around with a chef knife being like, oh, I just happened, I think I was going to cook, and then I chopped this dude's hand off.
Right.
Big difference.
Yeah, if I carry a bone saw with me, I'm going to have an issue, but.
Right. So just kind of like that thought process.
All right.
So now we got space. Right.
What about hypothermia? Because I know we had a conversation about this, and I know what our thoughts are on that. So I know people are going to think, what can we do for hypothermia? And we have a different idea for that.
Yeah, that's what we call a Segway, and not this cool two-wheeled thing I saw Sean on yesterday.
Did you ride a recumbent bicycle? Sorry, man.
Segway's
cooler. Segway's got a motor.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, perfect segue. Hypothermia. Initially, when I was doing all this, I thought I was going to keep hypothermia kits in my aid bag. And there might be situations where I do. But in this case, for most of my mission sets, I'm actually going to pass those off to the dudes who actually go to the gym, my litter team, and let them carry it.
Sean, can you queue up that video?
Yeah, I can. I'll pull it up on one of these hard drives. What I will show real quick, and we can kind of maybe work off this and still see that, is I'll pull up. I kind of modified that stuff I was showing you before, the little flow sheet type of thing that might help, right? So just to go over, and then as soon as we hit on that, we'll post up something like a clean version of this. But when you look at it, like if you look at design thinking as a whole, right, whether you're looking at the JSAL, the Joint Special Operations University, or anything like that, any kind of design thinking course, usually it all has to do with ask the right question, right? Because in the end, if I can ask any question and I can get like what I think is the right question, and I can get an answer, and then all of a sudden what we're doing suddenly becomes valid in our heads, but it's not actually valid. And it's one of those cases where, you know, an example would be like, you know, JJ comes over and you know, we're out somewhere and he's spiking a fucking fever or whatever. And in the end, you know, my question is like, how can I get his fever down? And I'm taking all this time, and although he's enjoying it, I'm taking his clothes off and I'm putting him in warm water, and I'm giving him IVs. I'm doing this, I'm trying anything I can. And I'm kind of dog chasing his tail a little bit, trying to play catch up with this fever, when in reality, the right question would be, yeah, I need to try and see if I can bring his fever down, but what's causing his fever? So the whole time that I'm chasing, trying to, you know, get his fever down, you know, meanwhile, you know,
it turns out I'm hot for teacher.
A little Van, that's nice, dude. A little Van Halen hit on that. I like that, man. What was it? What was that off 1984? Was that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Was it?
Yep.
And anyways, you know, meanwhile, you know, it's appendix rupture or this happened or whatever. I'm not getting down to what's going on. I'm just chasing the tail. So I'm not asking maybe the right question. So, you know, what are those questions to ask when you're figuring out what your med load out? And I think that regardless of whether you're just this high speed ass team that's got, you know, a lot of money and a lot of education, a lot of training behind you, or you're that team that is struggling to get any money to support their SWAT program or whatever they're doing, in the end, I think by asking the right question, you should feel very comfortable dynamically changing your loadout, man. And that's the case. Is I'm not gonna, you know, wear the same boots that I'm hiking into a waterfall rappel, man. Like that same thing is gonna make me slip and fall on my ass and kill myself on a waterfall, whatever, you know. So, you know, having the right equipment for the right thing is vitally important, and we do it all the time. Yet we feel like, oh, dude, this is my aid bag and this is how I keep it loaded. It's probably not the best thing, or this is my loadout. This is what's in the IFAX. This is what's in my aid bag. This is what's in my March belt. It doesn't change. It's very consistent, and I don't think that's the right answer, right? Because we have different mission sets. So obviously, the first question that we kind of hit on is, you know, ask the right question is, what is your mission type? And on this whole thing, we try and use some soft stuff that we have in here that you'll see very common in US SOCOM compared to like the civilian equivalent, and you're going to see like there's a lot of things that overlap that are very interesting. So whether, you know, if you think about your med loadout and you're doing recce, and JJ can speak to this, man, you know, within group, you know, you're rolling whatever, man, 4 or 5 guys out on this thing, like your med, yeah, he's carrying like a lot of ammo and comms gear, and they're, you know, they got comms windows and all this other shit. They're having like food, water, all this shit is going on them. So that's going to change your med, man, in a bunch of different ways of what you're doing. But at the same time, we can turn around and look at the U.S. Marshals, man, or even HRT has a history of doing this. And let's say they're doing, fugitive and manhunt, like when Scott and those guys were doing, NVG land nav at night, trying to find the dude who killed those two PA cops, man. When they finally caught that guy, he's on the lam for like a month. But very equivalent when you're doing that, or when the FBI took out that dude who kidnapped that girl and went into Idaho, into the mountains. These were small man groups, man, trying to cover a huge geographical area doing that. And so that commonality exists there. When you're looking at like something that's kind of direct action, man, that's kind of the bread and butter of what SWAT does a lot of times, is high risk warrants, man, where you're pulling up outside that curve and you're going right in and hitting this thing. Obviously your free fall and stuff is going to be changed, and that's more for our soft folks, man. But when you get into like something maritime, right, and you're doing that, that's going to change that loadout a whole bunch. I can tell you, even in Florida, we'd have to do training a couple times a year, going out and hitting like a casino boat and things like that, for if something ever occurred on there and there's a hostage situation or somebody flaked out on one of those things. But making access in there, it changes your med quite a bit, and then you really get into like your vacuum sealed shit and all that. Whether you're running low signature or you're running UC, and this could be guys in your police department that are running undercover stuff, doing regular direct stuff. Or you can get into places where dudes are running, undercover for months and months, into like motorcycle gangs and shit like that. And what that looks like to kind of support that thing. Hostage rescue, obviously everybody's from CSAR or CBRN. And then obviously you can see there's other mission sets that you can come up with on your own. But you can see how those things are going to change because of the constraints of the mission type. That second question that we usually ask is, what is your infill, right? And so if we look at like a direct action and JJ's guys or in comparison, your regular SWAT team is pulling right up to that front door and doing a high risk warrant, man.
That'd be a lot cooler. I'll take that.
Yeah, man, just going right on that X and hitting.
Yeah.
Right there. So what? You're covering the distance from the back of your van or the side of your van or whatever you're coming in at to the front door. That's very quick, and you may not need all your shit on you, right? You keep a backup bag in there, dude. You probably keep your litter bag right back there. It's not a big deal because you're 20 feet from the door, right? Compared to what if we had to do an offset a little bit of a couple blocks, right? Which is a lot of times our cases on those barricades or hostage rescues for the civilian side, to where we're coming in a couple blocks. So we may have PD holding a perimeter for us until SWAT gets there. And then we're coming in and replacing those positions and then moving in with our contact teams. So that's going to be a little bit different. And I may leave things staged in that area as I'm coming in, that, cordon is out here, but we're closer into this hotel that we're hitting, on a hostage situation, to where, if cordon comes in, they can grab one of my bags, or my backup bag can have a chem light that's cracked, and I can keep that off me, and it just gets dropped. And then obviously CBRN brings a whole nother thing onto it, but as far as offset shit, but then there's a true offset where that's more military, right? Where you're going in potentially, or I guess it could be fugitive too, man. Like you're moving in from a distance out, and you're coming in from miles away. That's gonna affect your stuff. So once you answer those two, you almost get into that position where you kind of know what's going on. Then this really recaps what we talked about, man. Is like those IFACs can change. You can change those IFACs on your dudes to meet what you want. And if you got cordon dudes, they can be carrying a different IFAC than your entry guys, which may be different than if you have a climbing team guys. You can alter that, but you know what they're carrying, and it's accounted for in your med loadout. Then we get to kind of what we're getting ready to talk about is, what does your aid bag look like? And that's going to be dependent on that mission. Can you bring a backup bag? Because that's always nice to keep those things. Like, I don't want this on me, but I'm going to leave it so someone else can bring it to me, or grab it out of the van or whatever. And that'll have a little bit more shit into it that I don't know if I'm going to need or not, but this is all I'm wanting to take on me. Are you working, out of a structure, out of a safe house, anything like that? What are your sit call requirements? I think JJ brought this up before. The showstoppers, that should probably be in your pocket, man. Right. But then you get into this whole other sit call requirement if you're doing recce or fugitive thing, and you're out there, man, like, because you got all these other things that you're really depleted on your immediate assets. Is there potential for a Moscow? That's going to determine potentially another bag or some stuff like that. Going back up into the hostage rescue thing, man, you know, a lot of times we learn when we're doing hostage rescues that, you know, they take priority over our guys now,
Yep.
right? So, you know, they take priority. So what does that look like for your aid bag?
Right, because
And
that
what
guy's
other
not going
things
to
are
have an IFAC on him, right? So
exactly right?
Right.
Right. So all these things I think help shape the problem a little bit for you. And then obviously over here kind of segues into what we're talking about is a lot of places that even military units in SOF don't necessarily use the TC3 guidelines because the TC3 guidelines are literally written for
everybody,
dudes that were
yeah.
flipping burgers
Mhm.
6 weeks before, and now they're in basic or whatever.
Yep.
So when we look at that, a lot of people use that as far as how they pack their stuff and how non-medics know what they're doing based on where they're grabbing stuff. So it's kind of that first order retrievability that we're talking about. So it kind of provides structure and provides nonverbal, and we'll let JJ get into that here in a second. But you know what's needed up front, and you know that's kind of you know what you're looking at as far as with your IFAC, and what kind of is that march chest rig or in your pockets, depending on what your march looks like. And so, you know, this kind of goes in, this is written a while ago, but, you know, that's where we're even saying, you know, needle chest decompression. Yeah. Do you need that in your march, or is that something you can throw, you know, in your bag? But because it develops over time. When we say crike, an emergency airway, a lot of times that's not for the guy necessarily that you're like, okay, man, like I'm gonna give you this ketamine and we're gonna cut your throat open. This is probably for like dudes whose face is blown off and you know, and it's you're getting a hole in your throat now type of thing, versus more of a surgical type of thing. But when we get into some of this TFC, you know, it's, you know, when we look at that, you know, we talked about, you know, when the bag comes off, things change, the casualty condition change, team leaders understand the significance with the nonverbal. But when we get into this at that time, you know, you're going to be taking that guy out probably, right? You're going to be evacing that immediately. So getting into what we talked about is the litter bag, right? If you're doing multiple breach points, man, like each one of you should have a litter bag available to each one of your breachers, because in the end, you don't know where that casualty is going to be. Especially if you're doing multiple breach points, man, you're probably in a little bit larger of a facility or a building or something. So, you know, having that litter bag with a chem light. So, you know, maybe it's the guy with the Halligan, maybe it's the guy putting det cord on, maybe whoever's breaching into that has that litter bag, and that's left right outside or just inside that door with the chem light snap. So if you need it, that those designated people from your cordon, maybe that move in and grab that to meet you, has it. So what could you put in there? And, you know, right off the bat, a hypothermia kit, man, right? Your hypothermia shit could go in there all day, and that's what your operator should be trained on, is how to, you know, set up that litter, whether you're using a Talon, a Skegco, whatever your team's using, and be able to bust out and properly apply that hypothermia blanket, bag, whatever you guys are using. So that is someplace that really should belong. But also think about other things. If you are backing them and you're not handing off to a helo or to an ambulance or something like that, and you may be riding in with them, you know, what other things would you want coming in that litter bag? And that may be something like the blood pressure cuff or something like that, because you're going to be part of that tactical evacuation care now too, to where you may need to palp something, you may need to do whatever, communicate with it. So in the end, that may be where a radio goes that does common EMS. So you can talk to hospitals, you can talk to that, whatever. That's probably where your hypothermia is. And any other medical shit that you may need in your evac if you're civilian and you're going to be doing a vehicle of opportunity evac to a hospital, or even trying to meet up an ambulance in a rural area to do a handoff, put whatever you need in that bag, man, and don't carry it in your aid bag. And then we kind of get to the bag capabilities of your aid bag with kind of big boy toys and stuff like that, but it's all dependent on how you set up all the rest of your stuff, or a secondary bag. But basically everything we've talked about, right, with suction and meds, your surge kit, you know, fluids and a warmer, you know, and getting into any specialty stuff, TIVA, TXA, you know, FFP, junctional stuff, maybe, and any additional marks that may be on the outside. But, and then we get in, I know one of your guys talked about PFC considerations, and we have a whole other thing for that, but realize pack it based on HRO, pack it based on your risk assessments, understanding that some of those risks are not risks, it's uncertainty. So you have to deal with possibilities versus probabilities. So.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, that's the super down and dirty of why, in a nutshell, we are not going to probably put our hypothermia kits in the aid bag. You know, so it's going to go somewhere else. Plus, like we talked about last time, I probably got a couple of quick emergency blankets in the IFACs, so he's at least mildly warm, and we kind of go from there. So,
Hey, what do you guys do real quick, man? Just because
yep.
I just saw it on there, because I know there's a couple things that I saw were really interesting and really inexpensive. But what are your considerations for fluid warmers? Because I know a lot of people talk about this.
Yeah. So it's a tough one. Obviously, I've got extensive experience with the Buddy Light. I'm okay with it. But to be honest, you know what I do? I take my MRE heater and I put some water in that puppy and I tape it to the freaking bag. Because that's cost effective wise, that's what's going to help me. I haven't got my hands on the, was it Quantum Leap yet, but I see and hear good things. So maybe.
Yeah, so do I. I think that I heard the quantum is pretty good. I haven't got my hands on it, but what's funny is because we're talking to probably a whole spectrum of people out there that are like, yeah, man, I cannot afford that. My agency's
Exactly. Yep.
pay for that. But when you get into something that, not even something that's remote, I mean, dude, it's just ambient temperature type of thing that it's probably a good idea to have something that warms that fluid in some circumstances. But I have a friend of mine that JJ knows, really tall guy, that dude was like, hey man, like I got Buddy Lights. I got the Buddy Light, whatever, the even smaller one. I can't remember what the name of that one is. And then he's like, I just go to Cabela's, man, and I get the 9-volt battery warming socks, and that's where I put my bags in. He goes,
solid, yeah.
Dude, and he has used it multiple times with success, man. But he's like, yeah, man, as soon as it goes, I just leave them in there, have that thing pump my 500 bags in there, and I can fit multiple ones in each one. And he uses the Cabela things with great success, which is kind of funny.
Love it, yeah.
Like, that's interesting, yeah.
We use, in a similar note, we use the sous vide, which for those of you sophisticated folks is French for with vacuum, and it heats up the water to a specific temperature, and we use those to defrost our blood and or make a bunch of different meals every once in a while. But then the government will buy it because I'm warming blood. So thanks for your tax dollars. So there's always a good option out there that you can find that's affordable. The benefit of things like Quantum, the reason they're a little more expensive is you get a guaranteed temperature. Right. And so that is definitely something that you should think about, but also accept that sometimes that's great to think about, but what I'm trying to do is keep this guy alive. So there's a balance.
Thermal Angel's not bad. We've used that a bunch.
Yeah, it's just so big.
Yeah, it
you
is.
Know, and unlike the porn world, this is the spy world where things need to be smaller.
Right.
And without bringing up names too, some of the issues I have with it are some of the components in those are proprietary. So you're saying is once you have an issue with it broke, like you have to have that specific thing. You can't hodgepodge it back together when you're talking about like, I just need this to flow through and warm this fluid. Yet there's certain components in it that are made, that are proprietary in use, man, that you're like, oh crap.
And again, I get it. Like you spent a lot of time and money building it. I don't want to take away from you, but I would like you, if you're going to do it, to make it smaller. Like proprietary all you want, just make it smaller, folks. Please. So the big question is next, I think, do choose your own adventure. Do I talk a little bit about like what we're talking about as far as nonverbal communication, or do we step brothers it up and talk about what we do with all this space for activities? What do you think?
I think nonverbal's important, especially when it comes to the aid bag, because you drop. We were talking about it before. Is you drop your aid bag, it cues up a whole series of events that occurs in a well-trained team. So
yeah. So what we mean by that, just to kind of cue, most of you are super smart. That's why you're listening to us. So you know this already, but the rest of you that are new, welcome. So bottom line is, the way a lot of people have done aid bags in the past, they've put all kinds of stuff in there. So they'll take their aid bag off whenever they want, to get to random things that they don't necessarily need to have in their aid bag. So now what we've done is we've trained our guys so they know that if any of us take our aid bags off, things have changed. Like the mission has changed. The mission, a big part of it is now saving someone's life who's in a critical way, not in like I can patch him up kind of way from my belt, from his IFAC, anything else, but this guy needs he needs to be under the knife in a pretty short amount of time. So that's changed things. So that's why we've kind of changed the way you pack an aid bag. But it's also a game changer in some of you guys who may not have a radio on for every single dude. It's a good way to think about it as well. If your unit or your country or whoever's funding you is a little bit cheaper, or just you can't have a radio, everybody, this is a way to communicate from long distances to a lot of other people. So as soon as your A bag comes off, now the litter team knows there's a patient that has to be on a litter. So they're going to start taking that apart, start moving it. The outside cordon is going to go ahead and start positioning trucks or vehicles or signaling the aircraft to come down and get you. All these things are happening that you don't even have to take any time to get on the radio. So not stepping on the guys that are actually doing the mission, right? You're not having to take any bandwidth away from your brain to actually take care of the patient. You can just work on the patient. So in that, you got to think about stuff like we talked about, showstoppers, little Band-Aids, any kind of things that you're going to have to be in a pocket, in a belt, or somewhere else so that you don't have to take that aid bag off. So that's the huge piece of the nonverbal communication, is that aid bag should be a huge signal to everybody around you. It's undeniable. And even if somehow the litter team can't see you, like you're inside, you can relay that now. Somebody else is like, oh shit, Doc took his aid bag off from a decent distance away. He's going to either radio or he's going to signal the next guy. It's going to keep passing on. And that's going to set everybody up for success. It's super smooth when you see it happening. You can't help but go from 6 to noon right away.
And I'll be honest with you too, man. It's a nonverbal thing, and so if you have a team leader and there should be some TL, somebody with some authority, somebody that knows is good at talking on the radio, and not like your newest guy on the SWAT team for the civilians out there. That should be attached to you if you're taking care of somebody, and because somebody needs to drive that train, and you're going to have your hands full probably.
Yep.
So it's much easier for me to be working on somebody and be able to verbalize something after my bags come off and things like that, right? So everything's put into process, but to be able to verbalize that to him as he's keying the radio, answering questions and this and that, while I'm still working, then me having to take the time to key it or do anything like that is just going to frustrate the shit out of the medic. And so being able to take that off, and that the team leader automatically knows what's going on, so he can queue up 2 dudes to come in off cordon to grab off whatever entrance is closest, to grab your litter bag that also has your hypothermia shit in it and whatever, get the chem light, and that's what you trained on. 2 other guys are moving a vehicle in, whether it's a SWAT van or medic van or a patrol vehicle opportunity, to the closest egress point that you're going to be taking them out. And that's freeing up the medic to not even have to talk.
Yep.
Right. I mean, he's just doing his deal, because he took it off. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody's quiet. And so as soon as those guys come in, they know, and you should train your team, like those guys who just came in off the cordon, they grab the litter bag, they're opening up that litter, they're hitting the hypothermia, and it's right in front of the medic. So he now knows he has 2 guys. If he need grabs that he has to grab you or task you with something else, then you're ready to load them up. You know how to operate and how to work the Talon litter or whatever litter system you work, that you know how to work that thing inside and out, how to set up the hypothermia appropriately, and how to assist you in what you need. But at that point too, if you've got to go verbal, use your team leader. Don't be worried about keying that shit, because really
Yep.
the only thing the medic needs to be able to talk medical shit to, man, is like a hospital or a handoff, who he's going to do a handoff to, and he can usually verbalize that through somebody too, and have it run pretty smooth.
Yep. Absolutely. So other pieces that I keep in the aid bag, now that I'm kind of going through all this and banging some cobwebs out, is the old casualty equipment bag. So I don't know if you've seen those, but like North American Rescue and a few other guys sell them. They're like vacuum sealed up to like a small square, like a compressed gauze. You open it up, and it's now this like satchel full of goodies. Because when you start opening that patient up, there's gonna be a bunch of stuff. And there's a bunch of wrappers and other bullshit from your aid bag itself. And I just want to make sure I didn't lose anything in the movement. So I just go ahead and make sure I have a couple of those.
And even if you have them from the civilian side, right, like you can hand that off to somebody, because I mean, you're talking some really pricey shit, from radios to NVG to all those things. So, having secure and hit sensitive items and things like that is vitally important. Not to leave that around, especially if you're thinking like it's outside, it's at night, early morning hit, and you're dealing with this guy in the front yard of some hood rat area, and you guys are in such a hurry to get this guy off that people haven't been able to take flashlights out and dig, but you're the medic, so you're there that can guide somebody to start getting everything in this collection bag. So you don't have, crack dealers rolling around with MBG and extra mags,
Exactly.
5.56 and stuff.
Yep. And in my line of work, like, I'll tell you, I'll never again have a dude all hyped up on drugs and have grenades on his belt. So, take that belt off, put that thing
Good
in the
idea.
back, lesson learned.
And it's a good point too, is we've had,
and like, that was not cool.
And think about this too, is we've had guys on the civilian side that have died from flashbangs, man, right?
Yep.
So, you got every dude rolling around with bangers and stuff like
Yep.
that too. All those things need to get, secured as you're going through them and moving that guy. And unfortunately it was in Charlotte, one of the guys, it was just a very fluke thing. We won't go into it, but the pin was out. It got repinned at some point because there was a kid, saw kid stuff in there, didn't throw the bang or whatever, forgot it got repinned, I think is the whole deal. I apologize if I'm messing it up, but in the end, he already had gotten home, was leaning over in the trunk, and it went off and ended up killing him against the stomach. Just good dude, man. But yeah, so point is like, it's danger all over that shit, man. So being able to control that stuff is probably a good idea.
So those are the things that definitely have to be in there. And I think that covers really well, like, our nonverbal communication without getting super deep into it. But that's that. So now there's still probably, if you look at it, a reasonable amount of Cuban weight space left in your bag. And so the next big question is what would you guys say you'd rather have in there? There's tons of things, I'm sure, but
I think it's mission specific at this point, right?
Yeah,
you got the big boy toys that you need, and now you have room for your mission specific stuff.
Yep, I think that's a fair way to put it. Yeah, because like for me, for most of my missions, my first go to is I'm like, ooh, I could probably fit that butterfly, freaking ultrasound in there, and I get super excited. Because that is something that, like, do I need on the XX? No, but would I like to have it pre-available to me not long after to kind of confirm or deny, doing some EFAST, things like that? For me, that'd be super nice.
Like one area that we could hit on real quick though, because we hit it, is backup bags, man. It's not a bad idea to have that, especially based on a mission set that you may have multiple casualties if you're dealing with a hostage rescue, or you're dealing something with, whatever. That having that backup bag of, do I really need this in my taking up space in a real estate in this aid bag? It is a possibility. Probability may not be high, but the possibility is there. Maybe that's what your backup bag starts having, some of those that would be cool, but it doesn't make the cut on this one, or just extra shit that you need that you just don't want to overload your primary loadout on. But the thing people get kind of crazy about is you don't need some crazy like in tactical bag on this. Like, most people are using like a regular pack, man, like a you know what I'm saying, like a hiking backpack type of thing that they have their thing on. The one thing is that if you are rolling with multiple medics, you probably have the autonomy to pack your march belt and your aid bag a little specific to how you roll. Although the capabilities may be there, you could probably space stuff where they're at. The one thing I've heard time and time again from multiple teams is make sure, though, have your backup bags identical. That way, whoever's grabbing your backup bag out of that van outside or whatever didn't grab JJ's, and now it's coming to me and it's totally different than what I thought it was. And the reason I asked for the backup bag was I needed this that I have in mind, and now it's not there, and stuff like that. So having backup bags be fairly straight up the same for all your medics, and you all agree on what goes in there, is kind of important, just because in the case of a backup bag getting pulled, somebody's not going to go around and search for Brad's name on his backup bag or something. They're going to grab where the backup bags are, which is easily for them to grab and throw into you. So I would think consider maybe making those uniform if you're rolling with more than one medic.
Totally agree. And you're already in a hard way at that point of life. If you need your backup bag, it's kind of like when you need a pistol or when you need a knife. Like, things already went super wrong, and so you want it smooth and consistent.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else? Any gems that I've missed?
I would think, one of those final checks, man, just like, generate circuit track after you try and put your gun back together or something.
Yeah.
Like just that function chest is like, if you get what's in your aid bag and you're like, I'm pretty happy with this. This is where I really would like it right now, where I can add this or take this away based on context and mission. But you're looking over at a couple other things. I would just ask yourself, is there another bag that I can put that in? Or is there another way I can get that on target with me? Because if it goes in there, you may have a little bit of time before you need it. So that may be something that you put into that litter bag, or you put into an IFAC, or you put into something else in your system, or even create another bag that somebody else carries for you, man. Who knows? But you know, figure that piece out, man, because your loadout spans that whole operational spectrum, man. So from
We lose him.
Yep, I think we lost him. But I mean, it's a perfect picture to lose him on, though.
Yeah, it is.
What a beautiful face there.
I'm sure he'll be
he looks
back.
like Uncle Si from Duck Dynasty right there.
Can I bring him back up? Like if I click on him, can I like make his picture huge for everybody?
I hope so.
No, I don't think I can. Oh well. Well, whatever.
What does pin video mean? I don't know what that.
I don't know.
Unpin video. I don't know what that does. Anyway, so
anyway, yeah.
I guess that's a perfect segue into near the ending. So that's kind of my take on this is you've made all this space, and before you get super excited and just shove your favorite new toy in there, ask yourself, what do I need?
Right.
Not what have I always wanted to put in aid bag, but what do I actually need now that I have space? And that's how you should be packing your aid bag at all times and buying your aid bag. So if your aid bag that you've purchased can only fit everything we just talked about, it's probably not quite big enough.
And don't buy a pre-built aid bag, because you're going to get ripped off, and it's going to have a bunch of shit you don't need in it.
Yep.
Or too much. It's just going to,
Yeah. Like the reason there's kits, the reason there's an assorted pack of anything in life is so they can sell you the shit that nobody else wants. That's how you end up with black licorice. Nobody wants black licorice. Shit's gross. Don't buy assorted kits. That's kind of my take on that. But yeah, so like you just pack it so it's like 2/3 to 3/4 full, and then say, now what does this mission require, right?
Right.
So for me, like that's gonna be like maybe a couple of pieces of rope, and a totem rack or something like that I'm not normally having on me, like a lot of other guys out there do. But I definitely am like, I want to be able to load this guy, because what I don't like doing is carrying a casualty down like 2, 3, 4 flights of stairs.
Sure.
Miserable. So if I'm going to be in that kind of environment, then that's going to cut up some space in my bag. Do I really want to put a butterfly in every aid bag? Yeah, those things are awesome. But do I really need one? Maybe not.
Yeah. I think Sean's back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Where'd you go?
Yeah, I got this like internet thing repeater that like takes the place. So I turn my Wi-Fi off on my computer, and it just runs off of that, and everything works good until it cuts off, and then you realize that you don't have.
Kind of like that.
Yep. It's kind of like this. This is a perfect segue into like the reason we say like everything works until it doesn't, right?
Exactly. Right. Exactly. You need to be anti-fragile so you can move through this shit.
Yep.
Your internet connection's there, and then it's not.
Yep.
Keep moving.
Next thing you know,
he's back again.
Everybody.
Yeah. The other side is I have a house full of teenagers, and I don't hold Lucas responsible at 2 months old because he doesn't have any of his own white. But yeah, they can eat some bandwidth up, man. So
I'm sure. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Peppa Pig takes a pretty decent amount of bandwidth too, so
Peppa Pig.
And you do not get in the way of little man's Peppa Pig.
Oh fuck no, dude. Or Despicable Me, man. Yeah.
Despicable Me. Yeah.
He gets shitty quick.
Yeah, he's actually really good at seeing straight through you no matter what for a while, and then he'll get shitty. Like he'll wait. He'll just kind of look around you and pretend you don't exist for a solid 10 minutes.
I seriously thought for a while that he may have some hearing issues, man, because you could be there and you're like, Lucas, and he won't even give you the time of ass day if he's watching like with something he's into, until you realize like you go in front of him without even moving. He's like, Like won't even look you in the
Yeah.
eye. Won't even look you in the eye. Doesn't give a shit. Does not give a shit. Like you could sit there and be like, Lucas, I'm on fire. I'm on fire. He's like,
Not now, Chief. I'm in the
Wait.
fucking zone. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. I think we covered some more stuff here.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too. Yeah. March belt, IFAX, aid bags,
ISACs.
ISACs. I would say let's, we have some ideas for some other ones, but if there's anything anybody wants to hear or see, drop it in the comments or, DM any one of us.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure that we talk about it.
And if you totally disagree with us, awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
I invite you on the next one and let's talk about why I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because
we're not saying that to call you out. We're like, I mean, if you have a better way to do something or whatever, if you want to become part of this, absolutely. Yeah. It's a discussion. Use the comment section for that for sure. On the YouTube channel, but also, would love to, we want everybody's thoughts. This is it's a community, and that's the whole point, is for us all to help each other out.
Yep. And you're not going to offend me, as I proved, with my joke in the beginning. And if you do somehow offend me, I'll forget. So
that's true. Good point.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's a valid point. Cool.
All
right.
Cool.
Sweet.
Excellent. All right. We will end this here, and we'll see you guys on the next one.